Hello guys and welcome back to Big Brother Reviews, and today we're talking about the aftermath of Paul and Dylan's shocking double eviction. Was it shocking actually? No, I think everyone wanted it or hoped it would happen, so I wouldn't exactly call it a shocking eviction. I'd call it more of a expected eviction, I guess. Before we start, just want to say thank you guys very, very much for the support on these videos. You guys are amazing. Make sure to keep liking, commenting, subscribing, doing all that YouTube stuff that you guys are doing so well. And yeah, let's crack on straight with the video. Okay, so we're going to talk about the aftermath of the eviction. Now, there's a lot of things that I noticed about the eviction. First of all, Paul apologized to Trish, and Trish apologized for her use of the word bully. She said that she should have said he was acting like a bully rather than he is a bully. And I think that's kind of fair. I felt like the conversation was escalated because of the use of the word bully, but obviously Trish's explanation makes a lot more sense now. As for Paul, I thought it was big of him to apologize, but it kind of felt like he was doing it because he felt like he was going. He admitted that he'd heard the get Paul out chant, so he had a feeling that he was going. So I wonder whether this was just sort of an apology to sort of clear his conscience, I guess. Also, I noticed that Dylan is the most pessimistic person I've ever met in my whole life. The entire time he was like, "It's me going, it's me going. Yeah, no, I'll be following you out. It's me going, it's me going." And like he was right, but like, dude, you should want to like stay. But also, I understand because I feel like as soon as he had that argument with Trish, he knew he was a goner. He knew he was going on Friday, and I gotta say, I do feel sorry for Dylan a little bit. I feel like he had such a good journey and he just had a couple of bad moments. I don't think he's a bad person, and I think his exit interview proved that because he was very apologetic and he made his sort of peace with the people that he needed to within the house. When they'd actually gone, Olivia and Tom were very, very concerned that they were going to be the next people to go, and Jenkin was kind of on the same page. It was very interesting because they kept on claiming that Trish has people under her thumb, and I was like, that's not fair at all because nobody is under Trish's thumb. She's not a leader of a group. She is just a person living in a house that, I'm sorry, is in the right in the situation. I'm not being funny. Paul was picking on Noki and was trying to disrupt the harmony of the party, and yet suddenly this is Trish's fault for calling him out on it. And Olivia went up to Noki and warned her about letting Trish be her voice and mentioned something about it being a dangerous combination, and it just felt a little bit targeted. And it's starting to feel like that group is targeting Trish. I have no doubt Trish will be up for nomination this week because she's guaranteed 4 votes from those 4 people. And it sucks because it's another week of hoping that the public will save her. It's really upsetting because, like, I really like Trish and I think that at the moment she's the person that I want to win. Like, yeah, Yinren's lovely. Yeah, Jordan is entertaining, but Trish is the one that deserves to win. I'm sorry. There was a really awkward conversation where they were trying to sort of put their differences aside, and Noki was explaining that she feels like the group has sort of made up their minds about her because of the situation with Paul. And Chanel was like, no, you've made assumptions, etc., etc. And then when Noki tries to be like, no, I know that, I'm just saying that's what I thought had happened, then Chanel just got up and walked away. And then Trish was like, don't walk away. And then suddenly she's the one being aggressive. And I was so over the conversation. I was so over it because I thought, do you know what? She's just being targeted at this point. Like, it's actually just a bit nasty and a bit targeted now, and it's not fun to watch. Like, this group has suddenly become very toxic. I'm not going to say that they're like anywhere near the worst people that we've had in the house, but I think currently they are not very nice people, or they're not being portrayed to be very nice people. But then again, I think from what I've been reading on Twitter, the edits are doing them a lot of justice. And like, a lot of the stuff that has been seen on live streams have not been shown on the main show, which is obviously problematic and it's obviously a issue. So I don't understand why they're cutting out some of the things. Like I'll get into some of it a little bit later, but they've been openly talking about nominations and not being getting and not been and they haven't been getting punished. Sorry, that sentence really struggled to get out there. So I don't know what's going on. And Trish also mentioned later on that she felt like their group is very naive about how Paul has been viewed by the public, because clearly the public doesn't like him. That's got nothing to do with Trish and Noki. They have no say over the public, okay? They can do what they can to sway public opinion, but at the end of the day, if the public's made up their mind, they've made up their mind. I know the majority of people had already voted for Paul before the bully conversation even happened. So I think it's very, very naive to think that Trish and Noki are the reasons that Paul has gone home. No, it's his own fault. It's probably time to talk about the love triangle once again, and Matty and Henry were having a long, deep conversation in the bathroom about sort of Jordan, and from what we heard, nothing bad was said. However, Jordan overheard the conversation and got a bit butthurt that they were talking about him without him being there, and his mind started jumping to conclusions, etc., etc. So much so that he starts being a little bit petty and actually quite disrespectful, I thought, which didn't exactly frame Jordan in a very positive light. He moved all of Henry's stuff back to his old bed because I don't even know, because he didn't want to sleep next to him that night. I don't know. It was a little bit confusing and a little bit toxic, if I'm being honest, just because he jumped to conclusions and he didn't bother to ask Matty and Henry what they were talking about. He just knew they were talking about him, and so jumped to that conclusion. And so next day, Henry was feeling iced out, and it just got a little bit too much for him, and he started breaking down in the diary room. Tell me, why am I feeling sorry for him? Because if you'd have told me going in that 4 weeks into this I would be feeling really, really sorry for Henry, I'd have called you a liar to your face, because day one I thought Henry was a week one goner. I genuinely thought he was gone week one, but somehow I'm wanting him to be top three, if I'm being honest. My top three at the moment are Trish, Yinrun, Henry, then Jordan, then Noki, then Matty, and then the other four. No, actually, that's not even true. I'd put Matty down near the bottom because I just find him so annoying. But anyway, so that's my point. I don't get it. I really don't get why Jordan was doing all of this rather than just having a simple conversation. But then I understand that having simple conversations like that is probably tough for him. So it's hard. But he did apologise to Henry eventually, almost 24 hours later, and Henry kind of accepted the apology reluctantly, but then was still really upset about it. So I think this has definitely caused a sort of rift between them, and it's tough to watch, I'll be honest. It's really, really tough to watch. Henry's really got the short end of the stick here, and it's really upsetting, I will say. So it's time to talk about the Hunger Games challenge, and I gotta say, I was disappointed. I gotta say, I was really expecting there to be some really fun activities, and they were all a bit naff. The costumes looked quite good, I gotta say. The teams were split into District A and District B. District A was Chanel, Tom, Noki, Henry, and Matty, and then the other five, Jordan, Jenkin, Yinrun, Trish, Olivia, were District B, and they had to go head to head in different challenges, and they just felt a little bit boring, I gotta say. The first challenge was Chanel and Olivia. They went head to head against each other, and there was a stone table in the middle, and they had to put stones on the table and stop it from tipping over, and the first team to make it, or the first person to make it tip over, would lose the challenge. and the other person would win points. And it was just like 30 seconds of watching Chanel and Olivia just put stones on a stone table, and then eventually Olivia lost. And it was mildly entertaining. Like, I was watching the episode on a train because I'm a little bit behind. And I was like, oh, like, I've got nothing else to do right now, so I'm watching it. But like, if I was watching it live, I'd probably be sat on my phone through it because it was a little bit boring. I won't lie. It wasn't the most interesting challenge. The second challenge was Jenkin versus Tom, and it was a little bit more interesting. They were asked to. It was essentially the same as like the Survivor challenge where they had to hold something, hold like a handle, and when they pulled on it the rocks would lift up, and they had to keep the rocks in the air unless like, and if it dropped below a certain level then they lost. And like, Jenkin had a few funny lines, like he was talking about he's already sweating, and it was quite funny. But then he just let go because he'd had enough. And it was just, again, it wasn't the most interesting challenge. Like, we've had some very, very interesting challenges this season. This was not one of them, I gotta say. And I was a bit disappointed. For a Hunger Games like themed challenge, I was really expecting a lot more than what we got. Which I don't know whether that's just my unrealistic expectations, or like, I don't know, it was a bit boring, I won't lie. But the last challenge, and I was very interested with how they managed this, but they managed to get like the two sides of the house, even though they were split up, to compete in the challenges against each other. And it was really interesting because you ended up with the final challenge, which was like something called Rose Raid, where they had to go into the arena and like pick up roses and put them in their basket. And it ended up being Matty, Noki, Olivia, not Matty, Matty, Noki, Trish, Jen, no, Jordan, Henry, and Yinrun. And I was like, oh, this is just like a fun day out for them. This isn't really a challenge. It's just them running around a room finding roses. Like, this is actually quite entertaining. The challenge was again a little bit lackluster, a little bit poor, a little bit boring, but like, it was entertaining. And like, I don't know, I just wish they'd done something more interesting for the Hunger Games. Like, they have so many interesting things that they could have done, but it felt like they were just like, oh, what can we do easily? Oh, this. Oh, we'll just scatter a couple of roses in the room and just hope for the best. Not one of your best challenges, BB. I'll be 100% honest with you. So after all of that, the Hunger Games was over. I thought this was going to be like a multiple day event. I thought it was going to be the shopping task, if I'm being honest. But nope. But it did have consequences. The winning team got to choose somebody to be immune for the week, and the losing team had to nominate someone for eviction, which was very, very interesting. The winning team was Team A, so Chanel's team, and they all voted for Chanel to win immunity, which, I gotta say, felt a bit forced. I gotta be honest. It felt like Olivia and Tom sort of jumped on the bandwagon of, oh, let's get Chanel. Let's give Chanel. No, Olivia wasn't there. It was. Who was it? Was it Matty? It might have been Matty, you know. But Matty said that Chanel should have immunity, and I was like, okay. And then Tom was like, Chanel, and I was like, fairs. And then like Noki and Henry agreed, and I was like, are they just not wanting to go against the grain and like stir trouble? Because that's what it felt like to me, but I could be 100% wrong. I don't know. But as for the eviction team, which was Team B, obviously Jenkin and Jordan brought up the fact that they have not been up for nomination or haven't been nominated for eviction yet, so they would happily accept it. And Yinrun also said the same thing because she feels like she's been scared of nominations and scared of being evicted, but the only way to get over that fear is to face it. And again, I agreed. I thought that was very, very fair. However, it was Jenkins' birthday, and he ended up losing the vote and got put up for eviction, which was not funny in the slightest, but also incredibly funny as well. So, I I do feel bad. So currently, Jenkin is up for eviction. Chanel is immune, and I don't know what nominations are going to hold. We won't find out nominations until tomorrow night. But I have a feeling that the nominees this week are going to be Trish, obviously Jenkin, and I feel like Olivia could be put up as well. Maybe Tom as well. I don't think anybody else from like Trish's side will be put up. Maybe if they manage to like unite their votes. They'll definitely unite on Trish, but I think their votes will be spread between the other sort of 5 housemates on that side. So it is difficult to guess who might and who might not be up for a nomination this week. Just got a couple of quick fire moments that I wanted to list off. No iconic moments from this episode, I gotta be honest. It was kind of a bit of a dull one. A lot of just tension brewing and conversations about other people's game playing strategies and things like that. And it felt very much like a fallout after Paul and Dylan were evicted. But there were a couple of interesting moments that I noticed. Matty spoke about his time in a commune, which was quite interesting to learn about. Personally, it doesn't appeal to me, but it definitely does sound like something that Matty would do. I also forget that he's a doctor in the NHS. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, is he a doctor or a nurse? I can't remember if I'm off the top of my head, but just it's still wild to me. I'm surprised that they never had a conversation, like him and Kerry had a conversation about it. That feels like a missed opportunity, or maybe they did and they just didn't air it. I don't know. Yeah. There were a couple of interesting moments from the live stream. Yinran asked for a bit of cake and Jenkin refused her a bit of cake because he didn't want to share his birthday cake because they had a little party for Jenkin. And oh, it's just a bit Mean Girls, isn't it? I've not even seen the movie, but like I know that this is exactly what happens in the movie, I think. But like it's just not nice to be nasty to people. So like get over yourself, get over the fact that your friends have gone home and just try and enjoy the time in the house. Like some people would kill to spend time in that house and you're just walking around like you're fucking miserable all the time. Oh, it's hard to watch sometimes, I gotta say. Chanel and Matty were doing a little bit of a boogie in front of the mirrors, which was entertaining. And then finally, there was a moment during the party where Chanel accidentally slipped off the sofa and fell, which was so funny to watch. But yeah, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. Apologies for the late video. Hopefully you'll be getting another one shortly, either later tonight or earlier tomorrow morning. But thank you guys very, very much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Keep on ranting. Bye now.